Hey church, Jason here. Just wanted to give you our Pastoral monthly update video for August of 2023. And I want to come out of this video really quickly just to say thank you so much, church, for the gift of giving me and my family sabbatical. And as you know, the elders have decided for the spiritual health of the staff and for the spiritual health of your pastor that every 5 years to just send your pastor away for a bit of time just for spiritual refreshment and renewal because the work is really good, but it's really full and it's really heavy. And so healthy pastors can remain in places for longer when they have the opportunity to get away for some renewal. And so let me just give you a brief overview before I give more thanks for all the folks that made that possible. So for many of you, you know that my family and I, we took off in our camper, and a camper is not much to look at, but it's all we got. And she's a 1973, and we took off and drove 4,847 miles. We went all the way to the East Coast, and then from the East Coast near the Savannah area, the Colonial Williamsburg area, we went north and hit major cities with subways like New York and DC, and then we hit beautiful national parks like Acadia with all the things that can pinch you and all the enjoyment and beauty and grandeur of these vistas, and it was an amazing time. For 21 nights we camped out, like in this picture you're seeing here, and 21 nights straight in the camper. We were on the road for 25 days, and it was just an amazing time. We ended the trip connecting with Chris there in Mountain Home, Arkansas, with Malfour Ministries, where my children caught amazing fish, as you can see, and it was an amazing time. And so we really are so thankful that you gave me and my family the opportunity to be gone and have an extended time of renewal. So if this gift was a lemon, I squeezed it for all it was worth. And so I feel really privileged to know that with the gift that you gave us, we took it and we leveraged it to the degree that we were able as a family. And so thank you on behalf of the Holloman family. It really was so much fun. I mean, almost 20 states, which even that number, almost 5,000 miles, 25 days on the road. It's a pretty significant time. And I can tell you, Bar Harbor, Maine, this time of year was chilly. And while some of you were, in fact, I think I saw a parody video that said everyone in McKinney is dead because of the heat. We were freezing up there in Bar Harbor, Maine. So, hey, listen, somebody had to do it. And my family apparently was the one in the sweatshirts. And so truly thank you. And that would only be possible if our church was healthy enough to endure that. In fact, this is now the third time since I've been pastor that all the staff was out for something and a total collective group of volunteers came in to serve. And so praise God for that. And so we really are, these moments are demonstrations of what a healthy church we have as it relates to leadership and volunteerism and ownership. In fact, while I was gone, to think that we didn't have to have any outside preaching. And so for Steve and Drew and Ben and John and Kenny, thank you so much for stewarding the pulpit and allowing me a bit of rest. So one of my favorite things in the entire world to do is to preach. I love it. I mean, I am excited about it. It's harder work for me not to preach than to preach. It really is. It feels like more labor for me to give away preaching at the pulpit than for me just to take it. And yet it's really wise and faithful for me to bring others in and equip the saints for the work of ministry. And so now I'm not doing that for Pastor Kenny. I mean, Pastor Kenny precedes me and all of that, but some of those guys don't have reps in preaching. And so it was a good exercise to be able to have these guys in. And so what a privilege to know that we have such gifted communicators. And then on top of that, all of the volunteers for children's and all the volunteers for setup and tear down. And so many different areas have to click for these kind of things to happen. And so praise God for that. And so anyway, that's the update. And man, it was a wonderful time. And so this is the kind of conversation I wish I could have with every one of you individually in your living rooms. And unfortunately, just to be able to show you a few pictures and to explain the time, it's probably best in this format, just so that everybody is in this together, so we can kind of all celebrate that, man, we were able to give our pastor a bit of a break, and oh man, what a gift. And so again, thank you. Now on to some more business. We're back in the throes. In fact, I've spent the majority of my day today getting ready for my first elder meeting back, making sure the agenda's set and making sure things are looking good for the fall. And so though we have a pretty good plan in place on preaching and some other things, it's always good to just confirm and reconfirm the plan that you have. And so for those of you that are curious, we are going to have a distinctive season in the fall. So I have a standalone preaching this coming Sunday. And then on the 20th of August, we start our distinctive series right out of the gate with Trinitarianism. Like, what makes us a distinct church? Why are we not Unitarian? And there's reasons for that, right? And then how are we Protestant? We're going to get into that and where we fit in church history. And so for the next 6 or 7 weeks, we're going to look at what makes Lighthouse distinctive. Like, how are we distinctive? How are we distinctive? Why are we Lutheran? Are we Presbyterian? Are we Baptists? Are we Wesleyan? What are we, right? Why are groups important? Why do we even care about groups, right? And so these things are really, really important to begin to define who we are and why we are the way we are. And so how do we hear from God, right? I mean, some churches just say, just whatever pops in your head, that's God, right? And then some churches say it's only the scriptures and the Spirit is silent and no longer speaking. Well, we don't believe either of those. We believe that the scriptures, the Spirit, and the saints speak to the believer. It's how we hear God. Like, we're going to have an entire distinctive message on how we hear from God. And so those things become really important as we define who we are, and as more folks look at Lighthouse as their home church. Remember, we're not in the business of growing in numbers. We're interested in the business of growing disciples, where people are made further into the image of Jesus, and that's attractive. And so we believe that if we are able to be faithful in that task, that the church will grow, and it's good. It's good for the church to grow because we want to see people come into discipleship relationships with others as they look to be more like Jesus. And so, with that said, and we're really excited about that. And then just after that teaching series, we're going to go into a series in the book of Jude. And so we want to get right back into regularly reading and going through the scriptures line by line. We believe that there's value in that. All scripture, even the weird ones. In fact, the weird ones you really have to pay closer attention to, because if it's weird and in the Bible, you need to listen to it and figure out why it's there. It's in the Bible for a reason. And Jude gives us lots of opportunity to check into some of the oddities in the scriptures. There's some places in Jude that are really tricky that I look forward to talking about theologically and preaching through. And so we'll have a distinctive series, 5, 6, 7 weeks, just depending. And then we get into the book of Jude for a number of weeks, probably 6 weeks. And then if you can believe it, we're in our Advent season. And just as another announcement, I want to make sure we put this before you. This year, Christmas Eve is on a Sunday. And so what are we going to do for that? We are going to have a Sunday morning service that will look like a Christmas Eve service. And then that evening, that Sunday evening, we will have the same identical service, a Christmas Eve service. And so 2 services, one at 10:30 and one at 5. And both of those services being identical, and whichever of those services fits your family best. And we just felt as elders that would be the best way to approach Christmas Eve being on a Sunday. We certainly didn't want to cancel Christmas Eve services. We certainly didn't want to miss the Sunday morning gathering. And so anyway, so with that said, now the only distinction will be that the Sunday morning service, we will partake in a communion element together, and we will not do that on the Sunday evening service for the Christmas Eve. That is the one distinction between the 2 services. And so that's just important for you to know as a distinction. There's lots of theology behind that, and we can certainly get into that at a later time. Okay, so if you were not able to be a part of our member meeting, we had a number of updates. So Robert got up, our deacon of finance, who is just such a blessing to us. He gave us a financial update that was really encouraging. So the last time I checked, we had about 66 unique givers. So if it's John and Jane Doe and they give from one account, well, that's a unique giving unit, right? So it doesn't mean that John and Jane are giving individually. That would be two unique giving units, but most households give together. And so last time I checked, we had 66 unique giving units. And for a church of right around 167 members, that's a pretty good number. Well, last time I checked, we had 75 unique giving units. I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know who's giving what. What I care about is the number. Like, are people at Lighthouse giving? Are the members of Lighthouse contributing? And let me encourage you, if you've not set up online giving or something like that, set it up. Even if you give $5 a month, what it does is it shows buy-in and faithful stewardship. And man, it's exciting. And so with that said, it appears that we have 9 new givers since the last time I looked was just a few months ago. And so that's really, really encouraging to see the Lord prompting people to give. Again, I don't know what the number is. I just know that number is increasing, and that's the most meaningful number to me. I know that if that number increases, that the Lord is doing a work in hearts. That's what I know. So that was Robert's update. We got updates from Liv and from Ben, our women's ministry deacon and our men's ministry deacon. And so there's lots of Bible studies happening. The women's retreat is happening. There's an identity retreat. Please look at the website for that. There's limited spaces. It's with a dear friend, Rachel Joy. It's going to be really great. And then the men have a ranch weekend coming up, and men's meetings are ramping back up. And so there's a lot of life going on in our church. And so be sure to check out the website, which is where all of our announcements, our calendar, everything that you need to know in the life of the church is there. And so we really want to drive you there as a place where all of our information is. And so a couple of other things. If you weren't there, then we have communicated this as well as we know how to. Last Sunday was Jeff Hook's last Sunday, our associate pastor, Jeff Hook. And so he is transitioning from an elder on staff as an associate pastor to being an elder who is a lay volunteer working for a local construction company. And so I'm thrilled to have Jeff Hook remain in the elder room. He is such a valuable gift to us there. And so the church was able to celebrate his 12 years, and he and his wife Tracy have been faithful for those 12 years. Such a celebration. As we walked out of the church, for me to grab a few files from him and some other things, I just said, hey, how does it feel to just, tip your hat and say goodbye and do so with such great pride and satisfaction, knowing that you were a meaningful contributor, faithful to the end of your run as a staff member. And it was just really just a sweet moment to leave the building and to know, man, what a great job well done. And so again, I'm going to see him in a few days at the elder meeting, but just a meaningful moment at the member meeting where the church was able to bless him with some gift cards and things like that. And so anyway, if you see him, you will see him because he'll be around, even though he made the joke that he might be fishing next Sunday, which is actually hilarious. But when you happen to see him when he's not fishing, then be sure to tell him thank you for being such a faithful fella. He's such a faithful friend. He was such a faithful staff member. And so I look forward to seeing continued years of faithful eldership as a layman. And so a couple of other things as we close our time on our Pastoral monthly update video. Our membership class is coming up here on the 24th of September. And so if you know somebody that's interested in membership, we would love for them to get involved. And so that's going to be a really great time with Boyd Pally leading the charge there, along with Daniel Potter's influence. And so, again, if there's any point that you want to get involved, whether it be worship or group life or whatever it might be, reach out to one of the staff members. Reach out to Jacob, reach out to Daniel, reach out to myself, and we would love to get you connected in next steps. And so I have a number of really fun meetings coming up. And one of them is I'm really excited about, and that is, what does it look like to create disciples, birth to the grave at Lighthouse Church? Remember, the goal is not just to put rears and seats for the church to grow that way. The goal is for the church to grow in the depth of discipleship and knowledge and understanding of Christ. The weekend is a part of that. Bible studies are a part of that. Group life is a part of that. And so what further additions and additives do we need to put in place to make a fully formed disciple? And so we've got a meeting coming up with some select faithful members called Birth to Grave. Like, what do we want our children to know and to learn and to experience? What do we want our students, our middle school students, our high school students? What do we want? What do we want those that are young professionals and those that are young families? Like, what do we want them to experience? How do we want marriages to be discipled? How do we want men to be discipled and women to be discipled? What does that look like? How do we prepare our students for college and adult life? Like, these are questions, Birth to Grave, that we're having. And so, listen, we talk a lot about our building. We talk a lot about, giving and a lot about this and attendance. But listen, I think that it's important that we continue to put before you, a congregational member, of what it looks like for us to be formed into the image of Jesus. And so we're having those conversations, and man, it's really fun. And so anyway, look forward to more of that in the future. It'll be one of our distinctives we talk through. And so anyway, with that said, church, it's really great to be back. Thankful for each of you. Look forward to hugging a bunch of necks and having some time in living rooms and just connecting again after what has been a really great summer. And so, church, you're loved. Really grateful, and I'll see you Sunday.